So what I'm hearing a lot of is basically that the business model is not relevant to the safety, efficacy, and quality of these products. That FDA's made that determination, they then need to help get the message out. So do you believe that the primary source being FDA is essential to the physicians, the stakeholders you work with? How does the dissemination by others make a difference, or doesn't it? Does FDA as the primary source, is that the only source? Can we accept European analyses? Are they pertinent, or does it all have to come through the FDA?
So probably there's a difference in the European healthcare market and the US healthcare space. You know, in Europe, you have the government-controlled contracting system. So whatever the government decides, they bid for a common entire country's kind of utilization, and then they'll go with that. In the US, you have to realize that FDA's role kind of pretty much is done when the information is sent out, but then you have to jump through the hoops of physicians, you have a GPOs, you have a contracting structure. You have like 50 states, and each state has its own managed Medicaid plans. You have Medicare Advantage plans, and you have pharmacy benefit managers. So the system is a lot more complex in the US compared to Europe. So my suggestion is, yes, we definitely need the reassurance about the safety, efficacy, immunogenicity, and other relevant parameters of the biosimilar class as a drug class. But for the utility pattern, for the end users, unless physicians who are the gatekeepers of prescribing medicine, unless the message reaches out to them either through national meetings, associations, not-for-profit educational utilization forums like this one, it's not going to have an uptake. So no matter how much things we do through FDA following EMA model, in the US, end of the day, the power of pen of the prescription of physician is the one that will determine the utilization.
Yeah, that's where it's worth emphasizing, and then Julie, over to you, but is that most of these medicines are both prescribed but also administered by the physician. And in that sense, they're a little bit different from a lot of the drugs where they're dispensed in pharmacies separately from the person who prescribes them. So I just want to make that point clear, that the physician is intimately involved in both prescribing and administering the medicine. Julie, you had a point to add?
No, I agree, but I do think, and the physician plays a very, very key role in all of this. So does the insurer.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
The insurers need to provide access to these products. Mm-hmm. The insurers and the PBMs need to cover these products. But the misinformation needs to, the FDA needs to combat the misinformation.
So what we're facing then is a catch-22, because the biosimilar cannot say it's better than. Therefore, most physicians, most providers could say, well, if we stick with the reference, that's fine. We're getting that option available to our patients. So we've got to level the playing field so that the value in terms of competitive pricing, alternative supply of the biosimilar can contribute, get market share, and be part of this multi-source marketplace that we now see in Europe.
A competitive marketplace, and Europe proactively engaged across stakeholders to support biosimilar uptake. It's not going to just happen if not all the stakeholders engage. I'll talk a little bit about what Carlos mentioned about what we did with EMA when we first launched, and the EMA had their congresses and continue to have them. Because we don't have that model in the US, the Biosimilars Forum, of which we're members of, started that model independently. And the FDA, every few months, we have over 60 stakeholder groups to a workshop, and the FDA is there, the EMA is there. We have multiple physician groups, pharmacy groups, patient groups, payers are there, and it's about supporting the biosimilars market. What do we need to do? And we started just with education and how we can get that. And as you mentioned, everyone has different information, and that's why it's very key that we go back to the one trusted source of information and education about biosimilars, the FDA. We also have to simplify this. We've made it very complicated. And really the source, the FDA, there are no clinically meaningful differences in a biosimilar, and the safety and efficacy is there. It's that simple. We need to simplify it.
And that's what we've seen in Europe. So maybe the most
Yes.
pertinent information from Europe is in their multiple million days of patient treatment with these products. That is
10
indeed what they've
years.
seen.
10
700
years.
million patient days
Yes.
of
Oh, wow.
experience
10
over
years.
10 years, and no difference, no difference from a clinical
Yes.
perspective. There no unexpected adverse events that you otherwise would not see with a reference product.
Yeah.
That's a lot of experience.
And the EMA published that. The EMA, so the authority, the regulatory authority published that information and those statistics in their educational materials for healthcare providers.